Hey Brian, how's it going? Hey Rohit, how's it going? We're just gonna wait a few more minutes for a couple more people to join, and we'll get started. And I've done a couple live streams before. Brian, I see your question, but I thought this is actually this would have been my second time recording my watch list video. I the first time I did it, I didn't record with the right mic, so I thought just be better to do this live with you guys. Hey everyone, how's it going? Hey Nick, how's it going? Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dustin. Dino, I see your question. How do I look for RS? I would encourage you to go ahead and watch my interview with Duckman. He kind of goes through his relative strength list, and basically you're looking for divergence from the indexes, outperforming most stocks, especially on negative days or during corrections. All right, I guess we've got about 50 people watching, so let's go ahead and get started. And hello, everybody. Welcome. I hope everybody had a nice long weekend, and we'll get ready for the week. Can everybody hear me well? Is my voice loud enough, or do I need to lower it even? Just let me know. For anybody who wants to suggest charts for me to look at, we'll do that at the very end. Okay, awesome. All right, so getting right into it, we'll start with my focus list, and this is a sponsored live stream by Marketsmith. I couldn't do what I do without this software. It's excellent. If you want to try out this software, go ahead and use the link that I believe is in the description here, or I'll paste it actually into the chat. So Marketsmith, there we go. Yes, this focus list is intended for tomorrow, next week, and these are the top stocks that I think are actionable starting tomorrow. One of them, SI, does have earnings coming up, so keep that in mind. We're getting into earnings season. You want to know when the stocks you're looking at and also currently own are reporting, so there's no unfortunate surprises on your end. Somebody asked about the tools I use. I mostly use TC2000 and Marketsmith. And I also use TrendSpider a little bit. TradingView is very good. There's a lot of good charting options out there. Okay, so let's get started, and we'll first take a look at AHCO and take a look at the Marketsmith charts. You've got really nice sales growth the past few quarters, and I really like the estimates for 2021, up 152%. Decent IBD ratings, and you have good growth in fund ownership as well. This is something I look for. But you unfortunately don't have any good high quality mutual funds in there just well. In Marketsmith, what will come up right here is if Fidelity Contra Fund is in there and other high growth funds that they rate highly. So that's one drawback. But overall, this has been very tight the past few weeks. I'm not quite sure if it's a 3 weeks tight, but it's been pretty tight closes the past even 6 weeks. So there's a nice consolidation here. And overall, the RS rating is a 93, pretty solid. RS line is basing on the price. You do have this one kind of wonky outlier day, but overall it is pretty tight against the 21 EMA. So going over to TC2000, the entry point that I'm looking for is at the very earliest, a breakout above this high on above average volume, or an undercut and reclaim of the 21 EMA. And eventually I want to see it take out this kind of all-time high, and that's at 39.76. So moving on, we've got apps, Digital Turbine Inc., and overall the very, very strong fundamentals in terms of earnings and sales growth, accelerating earnings, sales, and basically margins. You've got a little decrease this quarter, but still very, very strong. And this is exactly what you hope to see. And looking at the estimates for 2022, they're up 35%, which is decent, and the revisions are up as well. The IB ratings are strong, especially the composite rating and accumulation distribution rating. And you can see a nice explosion of funds over the past few quarters, and one high quality fund in there as well. Looking at the charts, it has moved quite far in 2020. You can see it started with this earnings gap up here. Actually, this earnings gap up all the way back here. Excuse me. And now it's kind of pulled back to 21 EMA and moved up towards all-time highs again, and then pulled back on this past Friday. The RS rating is a strong 99, and the RS line is right near all-time highs. So as for the entry setup, I'm looking for a breakout above this high at 6124, or this high right here on above average volume, or a reclaim or an undercut and reclaim of the 21 EMA. I've got one question here. What are the criteria you put in for the scanner? I'm not quite sure what scanner you're talking about. Is that Marketsmith or TC2000? Because that would depend. How I make this list is I basically have my Excel list that I put out on Twitter, and I take the top 200 from each of those lists, the IPO, performance, as well as fundamental. I put that all into a watch list in TC2000 and go through sorting by liquidity, dollar volume, then based off if it's above or below a key moving average, and then eventually whether it's basically near a pivot. So Tarek, you're asking about Marketsmith. Yeah, there's some great scans that people put out. I highly recommend Ben Bennett's scans, or Pattern Profits, as a lot of you probably know him as. Really strong scans. I think they're basically public in Marketsmith. Okay, I think that's most of the questions that people had. So, and yeah, I'll drop the list right now of my focus list in here. So if you guys want to follow along in your charting platforms, go ahead and do so. Max, I saw your message. Oh, it's all scrambled together. That's unfortunate. Let me paste it in here. And here we go. Yeah, Raul, I know you've been telling me to get into Bitcoin. So SI is kind of a Bitcoin play. So yeah, let's keep going. And where were we? We are on XP. So let's go over to Marketsmith and take a look at the fundamentals. So once again, very strong growth in terms of earnings and sales the past few quarters. And you can see nice estimates for 2021, up 65%. Very strong IBE ratings except for the EPS. Nice growth in fund ownership. And once again, you do not have any high quality funds in this stock. And looking at the chart, you can see it just emerged from a stage 2 cup. And mostly I'm looking for stage 1 or stage 2 breakouts. They're just kind of earlier in the stock's growth cycle. And you can see it moved up strongly, pulled all the way back to the pivot in the pink area. It barely touched it. It's as if they know a lot of people use this. Excuse me. And now it's moved up once again towards all-time highs and had a nice reversal bar on Friday. So as for the entry setup, if we go to TC2000, I'm looking for a breakout above this high at 80 on above average volume. And like I said, I really like this reversal bar, this upside reversal bar on this past Friday. So that is XP. And next up, we've got Farfetch Limited. And once again, this is a kind of stage 1 breakout. So I like stage 1 and stage 2. You've got nice revenue growth the past few quarters. You can see it's not supposed to be profitable in 2020 or 2021, which is one drawback. And the IBE ratings are pretty poor. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see they're pretty much flat over the past 2 years, which once again, I don't really like, but you do have one high quality fund investing into this stock. And looking at the chart, you can see it's moved up very strongly from the stage 1 breakout. And a nice buy point would have been either off the cup and handle standard pivot at 2881, or this right here, this kind of pivot, or even this right here. But I didn't catch this, and now you have to wait for another nice low risk entry. And throughout this move, there's no real kind of shelf here that you could use to get in. And this is actually presenting kind of the first Bible point at the 50 SMA area, as well as the first pullback to the 10-week line. So that's what I'm looking for. And going over to TC2000, I've marked this pivot right here at 63.17, and I want to see it reclaim this low at 58.22. All right, I don't see any questions, so we'll keep moving on. And if you do have any questions about what I'm looking at, just let me know down below in the comment section. So next up, we've got, oh, I skipped one. We've got Iipr, and this is a REIT that has to do with the cannabis industry. And overall nice growth in terms of FFO, revenue, after tax margins the past few quarters. And you can see that estimates for 2021 are up 55%. All the revisions are down. And you've got decent IBD ratings, not the strongest EPS rating. And overall, you can see nice growth in fund ownership, basically a double over the past 2 years, but you do not have any high quality funds in there at this time. And overall, looking at the chart, you can see it moved up quite well from this kind of, I think this was a 3 weeks tight, and now it's pulled back to 21 EMA, moved up through this downward trend line here, and now is consolidating. It had some inside days and then a nice upside reversal on Friday. So looking at the chart, I'm looking for breakouts through these pivots at these highs from the 3 prior days on above average volume. And a good buy would have been on Friday off the 21 EMA. That would have been a really, really nice short-term entry. So Tirth asks a good question. How do I keep track of these moves? So basically, I set early alerts. So if I want to buy a breakout off XP, I move this line down below the pivot, click edit, actually click it, set alert, and it will basically text me and email me when it passes through this line. And also will pop up on the screen here with a noise notification as well as a message when it moves through this line. So that way I can know to go to it and check it out and see if I want to buy it if it actually goes through this pivot. And I also keep track of it using the watch lists, which are great. Throughout the morning, I'm watching this, seeing the percent change as well as the volume buzz. And to buy a stock, I want to make sure that this is above average volume, and ideally above 100% volume buzz would be ideal. Suresh asked, can I add the name of the Marketsmith screens that you mentioned in the comments? Could somebody help me out there? And if you know Ben's scans, could you type out the specific names for them? I think there's the power scan, somewhat stuff like that. So help me out there, guys. And Mag asks, what are my thoughts on Tesla? I'll talk about that at the end of the video. So moving on, we were on JMIA. So let's go ahead and look at the fundamentals. Thank you, Daniel. Awesome. So Daniel asked, do I just choose a handful of stocks and keep watching them throughout the week? Well, I kind of always go back through my my universe list and see if there's any more setups that I should be watching at the end of the day. But my focus list is the stocks I'm focused in on for that week. And any of these are buyable in my view based on my specific entries. And as I should have said this earlier, but anything I say here is not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. This is just kind of my thought process, and this is for educational purposes only. Awesome, guys. Thanks for helping me out with those scans. Okay, so going over to JM or Jumia Technologies, let's go ahead and look at the fundamentals, which you can see there's nothing here, but the price action is super strong, and you can see there's no fund ownership growth either, and no high quality funds. So why would I even be looking at this? Well, it's been so strong technically that I have to have this on my radar. And if we, if we go over to a monthly chart, you can see it's very close to a potential green line breakout. It hit this high at 49.77 and now has consolidated here below that line. So I'm looking for a buyable entry through this pivot at 48 on above average volume. And ideally it would continue through this line. Yeah, there's been a bunch of potential entries in this stock. Daniel, I saw your message, especially here off the 50-day. Just because of the poor fundamentals, I hadn't really been focused on it, but based off my interview with Oliver Kell, the U.S. investing champion, he's watching this one. So I added it to my focus list, and I'm looking for a breakout through that pivot. So moving on, we've got Net, which I do currently own. And overall, it bounced off well off the 50 SMA and then pulled back this past week. And you can see really nice revenue growth the past few quarters, but you can see it's not supposed to be profitable in 2020 or in 2021. But you do have an explosion of fund ownership from 0 to 529 in just under 2 years. And you have 3 high quality funds in there as well. So overall, it's moved up well from this stage 2 cup. And now this was its first pullback to the 50 SMA 10-week line, and now it's pulling back below the 21 EMA. So as for the entry setup, what I'm looking for is a breakout above this pivot on above average volume, and that pivot is 84.78, and that would be a reason for me to basically add to my shares. Or if it falls back to the 50 SMA and undercuts and reclaims it, that would also be a potential buy point. Just looking at the comments here for a second. Is there criteria in Marketsmith to catch stocks with the power of 3? I do not believe so, but I think you could make something like that in TC2000. Okay, so next up we've got PDD, and overall you can see excellent growth this past quarter. Earnings up 125%, sales up 99%, and after-tax margins up 3.3%. And it's just supposed to be profitable in 2021, although revisions are down. IBD ratings are decent. You can see an increasing trend in fund ownership, but you do not have any high quality funds in there just yet. And looking at the chart, you can see it moved up quite well from the stage 3 consolidation. You have a nice gap up here. I assume this was on earnings. Yeah, you can see EPS change 125%. And since then, it's been hugging that 21 EMA until recently, and now it's pulling back on below average volume. So as for the entry setup, I'm looking for a retake of this pivot at 163.10 on above average volume, and eventually a challenge of all-time highs at about 187.70. Daniel asks, for new entries, would you be looking at flags given the stock market's run? I'm definitely looking for flags. We've got a few examples here that I'm looking for, like, I mean, you could call this, that's not quite a flag, but SI, we'll cover SI, and this is definitely a flag after a very strong run. So I'm definitely looking for flags. Somebody asked, what would be a sell for me? In my view, basically, if it really falls apart and crosses below the 50 SMA, this is kind of my guardrail on above average volume. That would be a potential sell signal, especially if it happened on more than one close. And for any of my sells, I try to wait until the close and ideally the end of the week as well, since stuff can really change from Monday all the way to the close on Friday. So that is PDD, and moving on, we've got PLTR. And last week, I think too many names were on this. That's why it squatted twice. But overall, you've got nice revenue growth, and the estimates for 2021 are up 71%. That's great. The IB ratings are pretty poor, except for the accumulation distribution rate rating. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see there's already 104 funds in this, although no high quality funds just yet. And looking at the chart, it's moved up quite well from the stage 1 IPO base, and now is forming its kind of first mature base and potentially a VCP at around the 25 level. So as for the entry setup, you can see it's squatted twice on Wednesday and Friday, and I'm looking for basically a breakout above this high at 27.43 on above average volume. And ideally, it could actually just kind of go sideways a little bit more, bore everybody, and get more eyes off this one before making its move. So that's PLTR. And next up, we've got SI, or Silvergate Capital Corp. And once again, this is kind of a Bitcoin play because they handle the transactions. And this is one that I picked up from Ticker Monkey and JT. So just looking at questions quickly. I have no idea if there will be a big move for PLTR on Tuesday. I never know what the stock's going to do. And thankfully, we don't have to know what a stock is going to do to make money. You just have to keep your losses small and let your winners ride. So Drew says, it seems like I'm using breakouts above recent pivots or bounce on the 21 EMA or 50 SMA as my primary triggers rather than the green dots or other signals. And yeah, that's definitely true. I'm definitely trying to buy more against the key moving averages or adding to it on a potential breakout. Okay, so that is that. I don't see any more questions. Bruno, thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And let's talk more about SI. So overall, the estimates for 2021 aren't great, but we'll see what happens with earnings this upcoming the 25th of January. So overall, the IB ratings are pretty strong. EPS rating is an 85. Overall composite rating is a 95. Nice fund ownership growth, but you do not have any high quality funds in there just yet. And overall, it's moved from about 16, 17, all the way up to 80 in just a matter of a few weeks, really. And now is basing and flagging against the 70 level. The arch rating is a very strong 99, and the arch line is basing right near all-time highs. So as for the entry setup, I'm looking for either an undercut and reclaim of the 21 EMA and this low right here at 63.64, or a breakout above this pivot at 75.69 on above average volume. You can see this day was a 3-bar break, but then this day kind of nullified that. But overall, this day was on lower volume. So that is SI. And moving on, we've got Teladoc, which I do already currently own. And I started my position against the 200 level as I saw nice upside reversals here. And I added a little bit on these breakouts. And I think my overall cost is about 206. So I'm looking basically for an add if it kind of breaks out above this midpoint. If you think of this kind of as a double bottom here, you've got the kind of standard midpoint at 236.80, this pivot point here. So overall, nice growth in revenue the past few quarters, 109% this past quarter, but you can see it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. IB ratings are pretty poor. This is in a lower industry group, but looking at the fund ownership, you can see nice growth over the past 2 years and 3 high quality funds in there as well. Yeah, this isn't a standard double bottom. This is just kind of how I'm looking at the chart. This is very kind of wide and loose on the left side especially, but it has kind of had a change of character. And if we go to a monthly chart, it looks very, very pretty, especially the last few months. You've got nice tails on these bars. And if we go weekly, you can see once again a lot of upside reversals along the right side of this base. So that's kind of what I'm seeing in Teladoc. So overall, going to TC2000, you did have another potential buy point off the downward trendline break. I don't use these too often, but I'm looking for a break of this flag basically to add to my current my current position. So let's see if we have any questions. Yeah, I kind of positioned Daniel. It was there wasn't like a clear buy point here. I would basically position against the 200 level. This is something I learned from Ray of Trader Lion. And yeah, it worked out. We got a nice 3-bar break. I added on this day and added a little bit more through this pivot. So that's kind of how I built my position. Somebody's asked, can we get another Jim Robo vid? I think we're hoping to do one early February. Daniel, do you mean by the 200 play, but basically buying it versus that level? So I bought it against the 200 level basically because I saw it didn't like to close below 199 and 200. And so I basically positioned against that level by basically buying at these closes. And I used this day as my overall stop. I think I started my position at the close here and then added a little bit more on this day, and then added, as I said, through this day and this day. And if you want to learn more about kind of positioning against a level, go ahead and check out the PLTR video that I did with Ray. He kind of talks about doing that with PLTR. So that's that. And let's move on to 10B, which is a cybersecurity play. And a lot of these are kind of setting up. I own CrowdStrike currently, and you've got Zscaler, of course. But overall, this looks very, very good. Nice flag after this nice double bottom stage 2 breakout. So overall, great earnings the past 3 quarters. Last quarter earnings up 229%, sales up 22%, and after-tax margins up 9.4%. Really strong estimates for 2021, up 117% with revisions up as well, and strong IBD ratings as well, except for the SMR rating. Good fund ownership growth over the past 2 years, but you do not have any high-quality funds in there just yet. So overall, I'm looking for a breakout above this pivot here, and I really like the volume coming in on this breakout. That's very strong, and the overall arch rating is an 88. So as for the entry setup, as I said, I'm looking for a breakout above this high at 55.95 on above average volume as it forms this kind of VCP after this strong move on volume. So I'm just looking for any questions. Somebody asked, what time frames are you looking at when entering your trades? For planning, I'm usually looking at monthly, weekly, and daily. And intraday, I'll go to 65 and 15. I try to stay off the 5-minute charts. There's a lot of noise there. So mostly 65 and 15 for a little bit more precision when you get into actually entering a position. Okay, so last on the list, we've got ZI. And this is Zoom Info Tech. And this is still in its due diligence phase. And it's kind of building out the right side here. And you can see it popped up with a stage 1 consolidation. And looking at the earnings and sales, you can see nice growth here. Last quarter earnings up 120%, sales up 56%, and after-tax margins up 34.7%. And in 2021, the earnings are supposed to grow 47%. Decent IB ratings, well, actually not quite. EPS rating is only a 75. Composite rating is only a 43, so not the strongest here. But you've got nice fund ownership growth and 3 high-quality funds in there as well. And this has definitely been frustrating. I've tried this a couple times in here. I think right here, got stopped out. I didn't try it during here, but I tried it here and then took off the position. I didn't have a good cushion at the end of the day, but now it's shaping up once again. So as for the entry setup, I'm looking for a breakout above this pivot at 46.95 on above average volume, or potentially an undercut and reclaim of all these key moving averages. Yeah, I think everybody's gone stopped out quite a bit on this one. Yeah, no problem. Let's take a look at PLTR. So I don't think it's squatted. So it moved up, tried to break out, was looking good, and then it fell all the way back to basically below the open. So it kind of reset the trade, probably stopped out a lot of people who bought up here. But it's definitely one to watch into next week. And this definitely frustrated a lot of people, so they might not take the next trade, which means it just might work. So that's kind of all the stocks that I'm focused on. That's my focus list. If I move myself here for just a second, you can see the other names on this list here that I'm also watching pretty closely. And PNW is also another cybersecurity play. So that's all the other stocks on this list. And now I guess I'll open it up to ticker suggestions. If you guys want me to kind of look at any of your stocks that you're looking at. And once again, this is not buy or sell advice. This is just kind of my thoughts, my educational, my thoughts basically. Okay, Zoom and Tesla. So Zoom, I actually did start this past week. At the end of the day, after I posted the bullish outside reversal, I started it a little bit here, added to it here, and I don't like the close here, but still it looks very good on both a weekly and monthly chart. It still has a lot to prove, so I'm willing to get stopped out here. But a nice bounce off the 200-day moving average, and this is the 50-week, and then the 200-day on a daily chart right down here. So if it can take out this 50-day, I think, and also 400 level, I think it has a chance, but it still needs to build out this right-hand side. And you can see this was a few months, this left-hand side. So you could expect kind of a similar time frame for it to build out the right-hand side of a cup shape base here. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, we had Tesla, so let's take a look at Tesla. And it's definitely short-term extended. It's got a flag here. If you're a very kind of fast-paced trader, you might want to take a trade. But for me, it's too extended for a position trade from those key moving averages. But this is a very strong stock. I've traded it well back in here during these runs. I missed this run, actually, but it looks very, very good. And you've still got nice earnings estimates for 2021. And good earnings the past few quarters. So Okta, we talked about apps earlier in the video, so you might have missed it. Just kind of rewind. You could see that. Thank you. Awesome to hear about Python for Finance. Awesome. Okay, let's take a look at PDD, which somebody says is an ascending base. We talked about it. Obviously, it's on my focus list. If you go to weekly, does it say it's an ascending base? Yep, there it is, ascending base. I don't really use those too much. I'm just kind of looking at the setups that I see in the stock, and it looks good. You've got a nice earnings breakout, but we'll see what happens. It did kind of pull back this past week and is below the 21 EMA. Let's take a look at Peloton, which I also own currently, and it's running all-time highs. This is a nice stage one consolidation, but did pull back late last week, although it was on below average volume. So hopefully you can hold below this pivot here, and I start my position on the 3-bar break right there. That's where I bought my first shares. Let's see. Let's take a look at Fubo. I wouldn't trade this. It's way too volatile here. If you caught this move, great. But unless you caught this very bottom or off the 50 SMA, I mean, you're going to need a cushion to trade the stock just because of how volatile it is. And you can see there is sales growth, but so far it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. You've got very poor IBE ratings except for the group RS, which is something to keep in mind. And you do have a few funds in here, but so far not too much going for it fundamentally. Let's take a look at Snap, which is also on my kind of overall focus list, not the ones I'm talking about today, but it did have quite a day this Thursday on above average volume, which actually sold my shares right before the close on this day. But so far it's holding this low, and it might just need to retest the 50-day, 10-week before getting going. Nice earnings breakout on high volume. That is ideally when you would have gone into the stock or on this pullback here. But overall, still in a strong uptrend, just kind of basing right now. Yeah, STNE, I was actually considering that for my focus list. It's pulling back on below average volume. Back to the 50-day, 10-week line if we go to a weekly chart. And I like how all of this is on below average volume, and you've got a nice strong uptrend. If we go to a monthly chart, it's out of that kind of institutional due diligence phase. So it looks good. SEDG, let's take a look at that and just talk about solar in general, because they did see a lot of pullbacks this past week, and you can see on a monthly chart that reversal. So this to me, as it took out this low and this pivot, that would have been the last sell, especially if I bought on this cup breakout. But this needs time. Any type of selling like this on huge volume, even if it recovers, which it might, this is a strong stock, it's going to need to base, and then start moving up again. And in my view, there's better opportunities than this. EMPH looks a little bit better, but also maybe needs to fill that gap. You've got other names like Run, which also is pulling back. So the entire group is kind of experiencing some distribution right now. So potentially there's better options elsewhere. Let's take a look at Solo. I don't think I'm familiar with that one, so let's bring that up. This is an EV stock. Not really. There's some growth back in here, but it's not supposed to be profitable. EPS rating is only an 8. Not much going through it fundamentally, and this kind of has the pump and dump look here, so I wouldn't be trading this one. Let's take a look at Plug. And I'm only going to be doing a few more guys. So this looks a little bit better. This is in a nice uptrend, but it's definitely short-term extended. And I believe if you go to a weekly chart and draw the clothesline, it's above that right now. So it's very extended. I wouldn't be starting a position trade in here. You want to build that up basically near this stage 2 base or on this pullback right here. It looks like a 3-bar break. But anyway, it looks very strong. RS rating 99, but definitely short-term extended at this point. Let's take a look at Bill. I think that's pulling back to the 50 SMA, if I remember that right. Yep, there we go. Right back to this stage 2 consolidation, and not much selling volume, which is good. But overall, the revenue growth is slowing a little bit, and it's not supposed to be profitable, although it does have nice sponsorship. So it's got that going for it. Yeah, UPSC, let's take a look at that. It was potentially viable right here, and also the IPO breakout, these pivots here, but now it's pulling back. It's going to be a little bit more volatile because it is an IPO, but it's got nice estimates for 2021. So I'm only going to do 2 more, guys. So let's start with SQ. And it's kind of tightening up here. Maybe needs a little bit more time below this pivot at 243.38, but looks pretty good. Decent growth here, especially in terms of revenue, and nice estimates for 2021. That's really nice. Up 52% with revisions up as well. Nice IBD ratings, good fund ownership trend, and a whole bunch of high quality funds. So this looks very, very good. And this has been a very strong stock overall in 2020, and it continues to be in 2021. Okay, lastly, I see a lot of people asking for RXT, so let's go ahead and bring that up. So this comes up as a cup with handle, but it's a 14% deep handle and doesn't quite look right to me. It looks wide and loose here, so I think it needs more time. It's got really good earnings and sales numbers. The estimates are 41% for the next year, although revisions are down. Not the greatest IB ratings and no top quality funds. So in my view, there's better names here, and it did undercut the 50 SMA this past week. The RS rating is only a 31. I don't really want to be owning any RS rating 31 stocks if I can help it. But maybe it just needs a little bit more time to form out this base, and it could look completely different in a week. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and let me know in the comment section and in this chat and on Twitter if you want to see more of these. And I appreciate everybody coming out and yeah, watching me live. Yeah, no problem, everybody. And everybody, use stop losses, practice good risk management, and have a written set of sell rules and buy rules to govern your process. Oh, Daniel, that's you. How's it going? All right, guys, I'm gonna end the stream. Thank you guys all. Best of luck next week, and I'll see you guys in future videos.